Hold on. This is loud? So the console ports of this game have came out today, and they got me a Nintendo Switch copy of it, which is quite nifty. Pretty nifty, I would say. But apparently my face cam is blocking the stuff. I think because there's dialogue in here, I'm gonna shrink myself like this. I hope that's loud enough. Actually, you know what? Let me lower it down to negative 25 decibels. I'm usually picky on visual novels. I've yet to complain Danganronpa, Gyakuten Saiban, the Ace Attorney series. There's also the Telltale games. The only visual novel I finished was Life is Strange on maybe last year, actually. I think I'll lower down to negative 26 decibels. Considering how loud the Nintendo Switch is, I think that should be fine. So this was originally a Spanish game. I gotta say, I kind of like the art style. It's pretty charming. It seems anime-esque, but it's not completely anime-esque. I only finished the first game. I never complete the second game. I mean, Mr. Horizon, unless you are a completely emotionless human being, like, and not sensitive at all, you have to completely approach Life is Strange carefully because it really affects you in your brain. Well, I think this is a Spanish voice game to begin with because the other languages you can have are Espanol and Deutsch. This game I think is like maybe $3 on Steam, but today is the day they released the console versions for it, which I managed to get a copy of thanks to a person from the company getting me a copy of this game. So, let's see what this is about. How do I voice this guy, Keegan? I don't know. Well, let's hide my voice. Let's hide the face cam while we do so. Yeah, you know what? Screw it. I can actually, like, see it just fine. When I was 7, I was sent to live with my uncle. I had just lost my parents to a car accident, the same one that left the right side of my face disfigured. Hey, hold on a second. How do I... Oh, I just press A. He did his best to make me feel welcome, but it wasn't enough. I'm going to move the chat box considering it's a little bit huge and the dialogue is just right there. Let me shrink this down a little bit so everybody can see that. Unfortunately, this game does not have its own category on Switch, so on Twitch, so people can't be able to look this up. But I did shout out the company on Twitter and stuff. And actually, do they have an Instagram account? They might have an Instagram account. I don't hear music from this. Bullied by my peers and ignored by people that were supposed to help me, I didn't fit in anywhere. And I spent most of my childhood thinking that it was somehow all my fault. One day after I came home crying, my uncle pulled me aside and said to me, "People are fools, Keegan, blinded by their own stupidity. They seek to destroy what they don't understand." But people like you and me, we're different. We're better. Never forget that. At that moment, it all became clear. I finally understood what I had to do. I'd follow my uncle's footsteps and I'd show them. So, what do you think? I'm only missing the essay session of the application. Oh, finally we got music. I don't know why the League even asked for one. There's nothing particularly evil about good grammar. I mean, sure, there's like, you have to write things in appropriate grammar, but then again, like, is there such a thing as bad grammar? I laughed nervously at my own attempt of making a joke. What happened to his name? The League of Evil is the highest authority when it comes to criminal activity around the world. They can make or destroy a supervillain's career with a single word, and even those that don't answer to them know better than to oppose them. Dun, dun. I like this guitar. I'm actually liking this guitar. I'm gonna shout them out on Instagram. Let's see. Does Rata? Let me see if Ratalaika. Oh, they do. Playing it at otherwise, how's everybody else's Tuesday going so far? As I put out this social media post. Now keep in mind, guys, this is a spy parody story, so it's not going to be completely serious. This story will not take itself seriously, and there's homosexual romance, of course. Alright, let's continue. I'm perfectly confident in my ability to deliver a flawless application, of course, but one can never be too sure. Which is exactly how I ended up asking one of my uncle's henchmen for his opinion on my application. It's about passion, man. Common criminals are a dime a dozen, but being a supervillain requires true dedication. He claps his hands together in excitement. You know, honestly, this game could benefit from a little bit of animations, rather than still frames of characters, but if they're working on a budget, it's understandable. He's almost as enthusiastic as I am about the idea of getting me to join the League, which makes the fact I have no idea of what his name is rather embarrassing. It's not that I don't care, it's just that after a while henchmen just sort of blend in together. During training, we were shown the video of the boss's speech at the Ally Nations. It was wonderful. Half the room was in tears by the end of it. It's the one about how powerful countries abuse the vote system of the organization to legitimize their actions, isn't it? I've seen it too. It's really good. It's not for asking that Human Resources makes all the new recruits watch it. In just a few words, you can really feel what the boss is about. What makes him different from all other supervillains out there? You don't need to worry so much. Right from the heart, and you'll do fine. Besides, you're Sphinx's nephew. It runs in the family. He said so himself, didn't he? I groan. Don't even start. It's bad enough that people think I only got to the opportunity because of him in the first place. The last thing I want is for it to actually be true. Getting into the league by my own merits is the only way I'll ever be taken seriously as a villain. By them and by everyone else. I think this is still just fine. I mean, I don't exactly have to push myself to the side. That should be fine. That should be just fine. Not to mention, he has this weird idea about how spending all my time down here is not good for me. And it's not something recent either. Because intelligence agency were always looking for my uncle, we never stayed too long in one place. As a result, I was homeschooled for most of my life. Not even ever since I finished my high school studies 3 years ago, he's been trying to get me to enroll in college, an actual college with other normal people. Monka S. Hey guys, if you don't forget, we've got brand new better Twitch TV emotes right here. They may not be animated but flying on the screen, but they're certainly animated in the chat right there. At first, it was just subtle hints and the occasional comment, which I accepted as his way of showing he cared about my future. Adidas Boys is actually online. Since last month, he's been bringing a bunch of pamphlets home. He went as far as outright telling me that if I was having problem choosing, I should study engineering like he did. Speaking of the boss, when are you planning to tell him? I have managed to keep the application process a secret for the better part of a year, but it can't remain that way forever. As proud as it makes me that he hasn't found out yet, I'm no fool. I know that luck has played at least some part in it. Besides, I meant it when I told the henchman that my uncle is my biggest inspiration. His approval would mean a lot to me. The next time I see him, I suppose it will be better if he hears it from me now and not from the League after I get accepted. He hates being left out, and considering what I'm planning, he might just have a stroke. Well, here's your chance. He's heading our way. Wait, what? He's not supposed to come back until tonight. The henchman shrugs. I turn around and see my uncle walking through the door. He has never been a particularly expressive man, but he looks even more serious than usual. Good morning, boss. The henchman salutes him, and my uncle dispenses him with a nod. As he leaves, he silently mouths a good luck in my direction. Traitor. You're early. There was an explosion in the lab. There's toxic material everywhere, and since it will take the cleanup crew a few hours to get rid of it, I told everyone to go home for the day. I looked down and noticed that his clothes are stained with some kind of black substance. Instinctively, I took a step back. Looks down as well, shakes his head, and waves his hand in a dismissive gesture. This is just oil. I was working on some of my old prototypes when I was informed of the explosion. Anything I can help with, boss? Oh, I want to clear up some of the space in the storage room. I'll get rid of whatever I can't get in working condition. And how many times do I have to tell you that you don't need to call me that? Sorry, I spent so much time with the henchman, it rubs off after a while. Among other things. Uncle, really? That was years ago, and it only happened once. As far as I know, only because he got eaten by a shark because it could happen again. Yes. The time the feeding cage malfunctioned and our perfectly trained sharks decided to have him for lunch instead. What an unfortunate coincidence. The corner of his lips quirks up in an amused smile. I barely resist the urge to roll my eyes. Don't you mean your own eye? Your only single eye? that's not covered by your eye patch eye. Anywho. Huh. Well, I can't completely judge on the script writing yet because I have to, like, get into, like, some, like, understand a protagonist, supposedly protagonist, a little bit better. Anyways.
Have you had time to go through the pamphlets? The entrance exams begin next month, so you have to submit your papers as soon as possible. I spoke with Madame Mantis. She said if you're interested in moving to America, she'd be happy to help with anything you need. Ever since she retired, she has amassed quite a bit of contacts in the Board of Education. In fact, if we get everything else ready before next Friday, she'll personally write you a recommendation letter.
I've met her a couple of times. She was a proper villain, the kind of woman that never does things out of the kindness of her heart. Meaning that he either asked her for a favor or she owed him one. Either way, I bet he's only telling me this as I feel pressured into enrolling. I'm glad that you brought it up, because I've been meaning to talk with you about that.
You have? Does that mean that you've chosen a college already then?
Not exactly.
Not exactly? Cut to the chase.
What if I didn't want to go to college? He stares at me in silence for what feels like an eternity. Finally, he closes his eyes and begins to rub his temples.
We've been over this before. You need to do something with your life. You do a good job around here, but you can't keep running around with the henchmen forever.
Wait, just hear me out. The reason I don't want to go is because I want to become a supervillain, just like you. In fact, I've already contacted the League. They think I've got a lot of potential. They're just waiting for me to submit my full application.
When did you even have the time to do this? Save it. That's not important. Helping me out and being an actual supervillain are two completely different things. The League's application process is infamously hard for a reason. Many people have died trying to impress the Council. Why do you even want to be one?
Uncle, please. I've gone through the curriculum of every major college in the world. Several times, actually. They've got nothing to teach me. I could go straight to a doctorate for about every field I'm interested in. Why should I waste my time with my frivolities when I should be doing something that actually matters? You're the one that always says that people just don't know what's best for themselves. Well, I do. Besides, I've been helping you out practically my whole life. I'm not making an uniform decision. I know exactly what I'm getting myself into.
Are you sure about this?
Says John Cena. I've never been more sure about anything.
Have you decided how you're going to call yourself? Do you have a base of operations? What about a plan? How are you going to pay for everything?
Do you remember the weapons dealer that sold you the parts you're missing for the death ray? Turns out, they also handles mercenary contracts. It comes highly recommended in that regard. He said that he would lend me one of his bases and some people if I went over a couple of the blueprints his scientists are working on. I know it's not ideal, but it'll only be for a day or two. After I'm accepted in the League, I'll have enough resources to get by my own. He crosses his arms, and there's another moment of silence.
If you're serious about this, I won't be the one to stop you, but you are going to do this properly. Call the weapons dealer and tell them you won't be needing his services anymore. You use my lair and my men. We'll draft a contract, and if anybody asks, you rented them.
Thank you, Uncle. I promise I won't disappoint you.
Of course you won't. Now come on, tell me more about your plan.
1 month later, in the National Museum of Science in Bonn, Germany. I pretend to adjust a strand of hair behind my ear, pressing the button in my earpiece to increase the volume.
Boss, I'm in the control room. I've taken care of the security recordings. The police won't find anything of use in any of them. The men are all in their posts and ready to go too. They'll be waiting for your signal. I'll stay here for a little longer to keep an eye on things. Please let me know if you understood.
I nod.
Alright, see you in the auditorium.
As an aspiring supervillain, particularly one hoping to join the League, there are two things to be taken into account when it comes to carrying out plans: visibility and chance of success. Just like there's no point in doing something so uninspired that it barely makes it to local news, there's no point in getting arrested on national television. Finding balance is key, and that's exactly why I've chosen Bonn's National Museum of Science as my target. It's a beautiful place, and just like its research center hosts many important scientists, its vault is home to a lot of rare and expensive equipment. So let me just check one more thing. Okay, the frames look okay right now. They look a-okay. Okay, we're good. We're good, we're Gucci, we're Gucci. Despite that, under normal circumstances there wouldn't be anything particularly worth stealing here. But starting today, the museum will be hosting the Schultz-Holt collection of rare minerals. Its main piece being the famous, how do I pronounce that? Angela, the angle, the angel, the something diamond. I don't know how to pronounce that. Besides being one of the largest cut precious stones known to man, its purity and chemical composition make it one of the most versatile energy conductors in the world. In addition to the exhibit itself, the museum board also invited Professor Schultz to give a conference at the end of the inauguration party. Schultz is both a geologist and a political activist, and he's greatly respected in both fields. To make sure that no other villain interferes, I told both the League and my uncle that I'd be planting bombs in the museum and holding the guests hostage for a ransom. Very few people are willing to risk getting blown up by a first-timer after all. And actually, my real plan is... to steal the diamond, to kidnap Professor Schultz. Do I want to kidnap the person, or do I want to actually steal the diamond? Decisions matter here. The decisions matter. If I were the case, I think I might kidnap the professor. As a public figure involved in politics, Schultz's disappearance will be all the news will talk about for as long as he's missing. Kidnappings are hardly my area of expertise, but all things considered, they are pretty straightforward. It's not like I'll have to deal with him for long afterwards in any case. I'm certain that both the Americans and the Russians will be willing to pay a hefty sum to get their hands on him. If I had to guess, I'd say that they'll want to claim they were the ones that saved him, making the other side look incompetent. Or maybe they'll use the opportunity to get rid of him while the blame falls on someone else.
We are number one.
It's a great plan, if I say so myself, if my nerves don't kill me first, that is. Until Schultz's conference begins, there isn't much for me to do except wait. The only reason I got here at the beginning of the inauguration in the first place was in case the henchmen needed me for something. Unfortunately, that also means that I've had plenty of time to go over the plan in my head, including all the little details about what could go wrong. I hate to admit it, but my uncle is right. Being the mastermind of a plan instead of just another person helping out is a completely different experience. But it doesn't matter. When I join the league, I'll get to tell the story whichever way I want. None of the boring parts, none of the doubt. Everything was perfect on the first try. In the end, I decided to grab a drink at the bar while I wait. The bar is actually more of a counter in one of the corners of the lobby than its own separate place. It's meant for people who want to get something to drink without having to find a place at one of the tables, or wait for the servers to take their order. As I approach, the first thing I see is a man surrounded by a small group of people, most of them women. I can't get a good look at him from over here, but every once in a while the whole group erupts in laughter. After the third or so time that it happens, the bartender walks over from behind the counter and says something to them. He probably asks them to either lower their volume or leave, since the group begin to disperse right afterwards. Now by himself, the man takes a seat next to another blonde man. He leans back on the chair and begins swinging it back and forth. No wonder he is surrounded by women. He's pretty handsome, and the man next to him isn't too bad himself either. Definitely a much better view than what I had at the lobby. A moment passes, and the man in the tuxedo says something. They exchange a few words, but the expression on the blonde man's face is so unfriendly that they don't really go beyond that. If looks could kill. In any case, I don't have much time to think about it. At that exact moment, the first man turns around and our eyes meet. I look away to see if he'll do the same, but he doesn't. Instead, I can feel him staring at me until I give up and look back. He makes a gesture at the bartender to order another whatever he's having. Now with the additional glass in hand, he approaches, stopping right next to me, leaning against the counter. Having fun? Or his body language and his accent, I'd say he's American. I wave my hand in a dismissing manner. Not really. Watching the government try to explain the merits of mineralogy has been the highlight of my evening so far.
Hastings are usually more lively. Well, as lively as events of these sort can get. Last time there was this professor from Columbia. What was his name? Anyway, he's convinced that Schultz's methodology is faulty, so he always ends up causing a ruckus wherever they meet. Well, this time, the committee made sure the guest list is as inoffensive as possible. You didn't hear it from me, of course.
Of course.
Drink?
He raises the glass towards me. I saw him order it, but I didn't see the bartender pour it, so of course I'm not going to accept it. Shake my head and pick up my own glass, almost empty by now from the counter. No, thank you. I already had one.
He shrugs and takes a sip. It's quite good, isn't it? German alcohol is one of the two reasons I'm glad that the Soviets only got to keep half of the country.
And the other one is?
Germans.
By now it's becoming clear that he's flirting with me. Whether he's actually doing a good job is a different point altogether. I decide to... I'm a villain. I'm gonna try to get rid of him. I don't have time for loud drunkards as handsome as they may be. He laughs, puts down one of the glasses, and offers me his free hand. I resist the urge to roll my eyes and instead offer him a tight-lipped smile. The handshake lasts a couple of seconds more than strictly necessary, and instead of simply letting go at the end, he slides his fingers across my palm. I raise an eyebrow, but I don't say anything. He's not even being subtle about the way he's ogling me.
Johns, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Don't take this the wrong way, but you look kind of young for an academic.
I'm still an undergrad, hoping for a chance to discuss my thesis with Schultz before I submit it.
Asking Schultz for his opinion. It's quite a high bar you've set for yourself. What's your thesis about?
It's kind of complicated, like Facebook relationships.
Smart man. Go ahead, try me.
God, why don't we just leave? Simple terms, I'm researching ways to improve the accuracy of the tools used to locate and harvest petroleum deposits and make extraction quicker, cheaper, and more environmentally friendly.
It's very impressive, even more so for an undergrad.
With a grin, he puts a hand on my shoulder and leans close to me until his face is practically touching mine. His breath feels hot against my ear, and mixed with the faint smell of alcohol, it's enough to give me goosebumps. Not the good kind, unfortunately. I take a step back to put some distance between us, hoping to throw him off balance. Instead of letting go or falling, he takes a step forward without so much as missing a beat. We actually end up closer than we were before. Maybe we could go discuss some of your ideas in private.
Nani?
Are you like this with all the geologists you meet?
Only with the ones that looks like they could use the distraction. Should I take that as a yes?
Maybe some other time. If I miss Schultz, my thesis supervisor will have my head.
Some other time, then.
He picks up the glass, chugs down the rest of the drink, and gives my arm a squeeze before turning around and walking away. As soon as he's out of my sight, I let out a groan. What a piece of work, trying to pick up people at a place like this. No wonder he got told to get lost by the man at the bar. What do you even expect me to do? He's lucky it was me. Anyone else would have punched him for his trouble. There's a buzzing sound from one of the nearby speakers, and I turn my attention to it.
First call, proceed to take your seats. The conference will begin in 15 minutes.
When the announcement's done, I head towards the auditorium. At this point in time, it feels like, well, I can see what the direction they're trying to go with this. Of course, it's not going to captivate everybody. It is a visual novel, so of course there's a bunch of readings to be done. So I don't know how much longer we can go on with. Maybe after we finish one chapter. Other than the first two rows, which have been reserved for politicians and the press, the seats aren't numbered. Terribly inconvenient for people that would rather secure a good place without having to enter early or wait too long in line for it. On the other hand, it's perfect for someone like me that would rather not have a name attached to their tickets. When one of the usher takes my ticket, I recognize him as one of my uncle's men, just like the henchman said. He directs me towards a free seat at the corner of one of the middle rows. Perfect. Nothing would ruin a dramatic entrance like having to ask people to stand up so I can get to the stage. Once I'm at the seat, it quickly became obvious why no one had taken yet. Sitting next to me is the blonde man from the hall, reading the program with an expression on the face just as friendly as the one he had back there. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" He looks at me, shakes his head, and goes back to reading without a single word. Under any other circumstances, I wouldn't care, but come on. He talked to the other man at the bar, and I don't get more than a side glance? It's entirely possible for him to just be some regular guy with bad social skills and poor German, but he didn't even attempt to answer in English either. I decided to give my gut feeling a try, and leaning closer to him and lowering my voice so that no one will hear, I began to speak to him in Russian. "I heard that the Russians have a lot of trouble getting travel permits nowadays, even those who have never been to the Soviet Union. I can't even imagine how hard it must be for actual Soviets to get out of their country." That gets his attention, enough to put down the program and turn to face me. He looks like he's assessing me and trying to intimidate me at the same time. If I'm completely honest with myself, why am I interested in talking with him? I'm gonna do another save right there. Because he insists on ignoring me? No, he ignores people. I think I'm just gonna say there's something suspicious about him. It's not uncommon to find Russian expatriates in high-profile events, but in general, they're pretty easy to recognize. This man isn't one. I went through a lot of trouble to make sure no one would interrupt me today, so if there's something out of place about him, I need to know.
Me neither. I'd imagine it's just about as difficult as finding someone that will teach you Russian on this side of the world.
His accent is very thick, even in Russian. Thankfully, I speak the language fairly well, otherwise I would have regretted my decision as soon as he opened his mouth. As with all things, if it's a matter of knowing the right people, speaking a language won't get you arrested, though.
That depends on how you use it.
And how do you use it?
Who are you?
No one of consequences, as long as you don't get in my way. We exchange a look of suspicion before he goes back to reading, not without hesitation. Seems like I'll have to keep an eye on him.
Third call, please remain in silence for the duration of the conference. We'd like to remind you that photography is restricted to authorized press.
The lights of the room begin to dim until they turn off completely, and the auditorium's only remaining illumination are the spotlights above the stage. A man in a suit appears from the left end of the stage, followed by Professor Schultz. He stops at the podium, and soon any hopes of conversation are drowned by the audience's applause.
Please welcome Professor Hans Schultz, head of the Schultz-Holt Foundation.
There's another round of applause, this time much louder. After a couple of seconds pass, Schultz holds his hand up and the whole room goes quiet. It's like reading a book all over again, I swear to God. Slowly, the floor next to him begins to open, and everyone watches in awe as the case in which the diamond is kept raises from it. I had seen pictures of it before, of course, but it doesn't compare to seeing it in person.
As you all know, the
thing I can't pronounce,
is amongst the rarest gemstones in the world. Flawless both in its surface and its interior, it allows both heat and electricity to be conducted with minimal dispersion up to...
I pressed the button on the side of my watch. I couldn't risk being too much equipment in person, but I managed to fit both a communicator and a small laser into my watch. At my signal, the doors burst open and the henchmen appear, while the ones that had been posing as ushers hurried to lock the doors behind them. My uncle only ended up letting me about half a dozen of them, but since the people inside have no way to tell, they aren't more than enough. There are whispers of confusion at first, but the room goes completely quiet when Schultz slams his hand against the podium.
What is the meaning of this? Security, get these people out of here.
I stand up and am escorted to the stage by that one henchman whose name I should probably know by now. While we walk, he goes ahead and hands me the control of the bombs. It's mostly for show, since we only wired enough bombs to mess up some of the less important rooms, while the rest are decoys set to release smoke. Of course, they don't know that. There has been a slight change of plans, Professor. As I take the podium, I put down the control in front of me, and I signal the henchman to restrain Schultz. They both get off the stage, and he leads the professor towards the side of the auditorium. That makes sense. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated. If you cooperate and do exactly as you're told, no one will get hurt. When you look back to this moment in a few years, you realize it was the most important day of your lives. Scientific achievements, political careers. Everything you've done will pale in comparison to this instant, and that is because today, you'll become part of history.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for the lurk, Harbs, and thank you for the 4 biddies. Let me go ahead and give you a shout out, fam. I think I might just complete one chapter of this and then switch games. Because, like, I don't think anybody, if I can't find the game, as you play some Ori, might as well switch over to something else.
Cowabunga.
Cowabunga and Dieters. Scientific achievements, political careers, everything you've done will pale in comparison to this instant, and that is because today you'll become part of history. You'll have the honor of witnessing the birth of one of the greatest supervillains known to man, Dr. Cyclops. As of right now, you also have the honor of being my hostages. Hopefully the government values your lives. I'm briefly interrupted by the sound of talking coming from amongst the seats. I decide to ignore it and continue. Enough to pay the... When it happens again, I stop speaking and begin to look over the crowd, searching for the source of the interruption. Most of the guests either have a look of fear or discomfort on their faces, and some of them even shake their heads when they notice me looking at them. What do I have for henchmen for if they can't even keep people from talking at the same time as me? Finally, I notice that the henchman is out of place, standing at the end of a row rather than at his place next to Schultz. He seems to be arguing with someone. I step down from the stage to get a better look, and I recognize the other person as the man from the lobby.
What are you doing? Sit down.
I'm going to the bathroom, unless you want me to get sick all over the floor. He stands up and gives a few steps forward. Actually, it's more of an awkward stumbling. He looks really drunk.
Hey, I said you aren't going anywhere.
The henchman grabs his arm to stop him. Suddenly, the man turns around and punches him square on the nose, knocking him out cold in the process. Stepping around the henchman's unconscious body, he puts a hand inside his jacket and takes out a gun. At first, I'm amused by the idea of getting shot by an overeager drunk, but he manages to point it right at me just fine.
Hunter, Agent Hunter, Global, you're all under arrest.
Damn it. People begin to look at him, whispering to each other, until the crowd's attention is divided between the two of us. Meanwhile, none of the henchmen move, unsure of what to do. The only security on site was supposed to be the museum's guards and some of the local police station outside. There was nothing to make us think that an agent of Global would be here, let alone armed. The henchmen could deal with him through sheer numbers alone, but I need them to keep control of the crowd. If everyone begins to panic, it's not going to be good for any of us. I decide to try and bluff, so I shrug and laugh it off. Nice try, but you don't risk a shootout in a room full of civilians, or for me to blow this place sky high. I pick up the control and put my index finger on the big red button in the middle of it. See this? My men have put bombs all around the museum. One false move, and I'll push it.
With you still inside? No, I don't think so. As for the henchmen, my aim is pretty good, and something tells me none of them want to be the one that gets their boss shot.
Guess we'll have to see who's faster. Get him! The henchmen are getting ready to fire when I'm blinded a flash of white light. Out of the instinct, I drop the control and raise my arm to cover my good eye, but the movement makes me lose my balance and I end up falling back. Grenade! Everybody get down! Hold your fire! My vision is blurry so much that I barely see the second flash of light when it goes off. I hear the people begin to scream, but the noise sounds distant, as if I was in another room altogether. Oh, somebody threw a flashbang. It's not much of a relief, but at least that means that they were flashing grenades rather than the fragmentation ones. It takes a couple of seconds for my eyesight to come back, and a couple more for me to regain enough strength to be able to stand up. I look around. Half of the henchmen are on the floor, covering their ears in pain, and the other half still looks too confused to do anything. Upon realizing that no one is blocking their way anymore, the people in the seats began to run towards the exits in panic, pushing each other and screaming. By the time the henchmen tried to regain control of the situation, the whole room was descended into chaos. In front of me, Agent Hunter points his gun in my direction and begins to approach, or at least, he's trying to. His hand is shaking so much that it's obvious that he's just as disoriented as I am. I frown. If it wasn't him, then who? He looks at me, and at the floor, and stops. I look down as well and realize why. It's the control. He hurls himself forward and grabs it. I take the opportunity to kick the gun out of his other hand, but he holds onto my leg and pulls me down with him. We both end up on the floor trying to wrestle the control out of each other's hands. While Hunter may be stronger, right now I'm the one in better condition, so I manage to hold my own against him. We keep rolling around the floor until I manage to flip him over and pin him down.
Has someone ever told you that this is your best angle?
Shut up and give it back! As we continue to struggle for the control, I notice someone get on the stage out of the corner of my eye. I turn my head and see the blonde man from the lobby walk up to the diamonds case and lift it up. It's a brief distraction, but it's enough to give Hunter the upper hand. He needs to push me off of him. When I fall back, the control is sent flying into the air, and Hunter and I stare at it as it lands right on the detonator. Well, shit. Of course, nothing happens. It's a decoy.
It's a decoy, isn't it?
Hunter shakes his head in disbelief, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. But instead of looking angry, he seems rather amused by the whole situation. Having decided that his immediate business with me is done, he runs past me and onto the stage to catch up with the other man. They begin fighting over the diamond right away, trying to keep the other from getting a proper hold on it. They're pretty evenly matched at first, but the longer the fight lasts, the more Hunter struggles to keep up. Whoever the Russian is, it's clear that he's not just a random guest or some opportunistic thief. It will be an easy mission, they said. No one cares about that old rock anymore, they said. Why does the KGB even want with it? It should be, what does the KGB even want with it? Oh, you commies dislike everything that may be worth more than a ruby? Be quiet. The diamond is the property of the Soviet government. I've gone to take it back. Global and the KGB? I knew there was something odd about those two. Good thing I'm not here for the diamond. Let them fight over it while we get away with Schultz. I walk over to where the henchman is and nudge him awake with my foot. He stands up, holding the side of his head with a pained expression. His nose is bleeding from Hunter's punch, and he has a split lip. He's pretty lucky that he didn't get trampled by people on their way out. Put yourself together. We need to get Schultz and get out of here before the agent notices. Can you help me get him to the vehicle? Some of this English is just rough translation.
Yes.
Go tell the others to get out and get everything ready. I'll hold Schultz back in the meantime.
Yes.
Go tell the others to get out and get everything ready. He nods and goes running to where the other henchmen are. I think that's just a visual error or something, because the dialogue just repeated itself. They still look confused from the grenade, but they are well enough shape to pick up their guns and head to the exit. Speaking of Schultz, where is he? The professor didn't leave with the rest of the people. Instead, he's been watching both men fighting over the diamond. He obviously cares more about it than for his own safety. He's even too distracted to notice us as I approach him from behind. Professor, if you would be so kind to come with me. Schultz turns around, alarmed. I'm about to grab him when there's a loud noise right outside the auditorium. I feel the floor move and I lose my step. The room quickly begins to fill with smoke and dust, and I cover my mouth and nose with my sleeve. Okay, the buttons are glitching right now. Maybe there should be a patch, because, like, I'm pressing A to move forward and it just repeats the dialogue. What the hell? Now Schultz is more important. The smoke gets thicker by the second, and it soon becomes impossible to distinguish anything more than a couple of meters away. I have just enough visibility to see two blurry figures through the smoke, each running towards the exit through different rows. One of them must be Schultz. The only people left here besides me and the henchman were the professor and both agents. I'm pretty sure are still on the stage. Damn, it's too dark, I can't see their faces.
Us, where are you?
Over here. Between the two of us, it should be enough to incapacitate Schultz and carry him outside. Once there, the others will take care of the rest. I start to run towards... green suit. I run towards the man in the green suit and tackle him with all my strength. He's a lot more sturdy than I would have imagined. I almost dislocate my shoulder from the impact alone. While I keep him on the floor, the henchman puts a hood over his head and ties his hands and feet. Even between the two of us, it takes a lot of effort to get him out of the building. He struggles so much that he actually kicks the henchman right on the nose at one point.
God, again?
What do they feed these people? We get him into the trunk of the vehicle and head back to the base. While the henchman drives, I change out of the suit and into my usual clothes. Every once in a while, we hear the professor kick the trunk from the inside as if trying to get out. It makes what's already a tense trip even more tense. Finally, after a couple of hours, we get to the lair. Sphinx's lair, currently serving as Dr. Cyclops' base of operations, location somewhere in Germany. A couple of henchmen help us get Schultz out of the trunk and into the laboratory. I'd planned to simply set him on a chair and put a guard at the door to keep an eye on him. Not and I. He gave us too much trouble on the way here for that. With how the day has gone so far, I don't want to risk him getting shot trying to escape. Do we still have that table with the straps? The one we used before we had the cell block?
Yes.
bring it over and tie down Schultz. The less he can move, the better. He nods. When he's about to leave, he touches his nose and stops to gesture at 2 other henchmen to go with him. They returned a couple of minutes later, carrying the table with them. That thing is probably older than I am, and proof they have the things at the warehouse are there for a nostalgic reason. The henchmen put the table down in the middle of the laboratory and secured it to the floor. While 2 of them cut the ropes around Schultz's hands and feet and lift him to the table, the other straps him down to it. Schultz thrashes and kicks until the very last moment, shouting curses at us. At least, I think that's what he's doing. The hood muffles a lot of it, so it just sounds like a distant yelling and heavy breathing. Well, despite all the setbacks, we did it. Congratulations, everyone. The henchmen nod and give me a half-hearted smiles that make them look more relieved than happy. He probably thought I was going to blame them for what happened at the museum. Which, to be honest, I would have done if we had come back empty-handed. I still need to figure out how we missed 2 agents. Someone in intelligence is going to have to answer for that. That's a matter for another time now. I get closer to the table, leaning over so that I am right in front of the professor. At my signal, the henchman standing close to Schultz grabs the hood covering his head and takes it off. You have given us a lot of trouble, Professor. Schultz? It's the Russian. You. The henchman exchanged a nervous look between them for about a second before turning to stare at me. I try to clear my throat in an authoritative manner, but it sounds like more like I'm trying not to choke. Keep an eye on him. Don't let him move a muscle until I come back. I take a couple of steps back. As soon as I'm sure that nobody can see me anymore, I run out of the laboratory. Not Schultz, but Sergey. It's Sergey. When he agreed to lend me the lair, my uncle did so with the condition that he'd spend the day working in his office. Close enough to keep an eye on me, but out of sight as not to be fastidious about it. That's a word I don't say. At the time, I wasn't too happy about it, but now I couldn't be more glad that he was so insistent. When I get there, I don't even bother knocking. Knowing that the door will be unlocked, I simply storm inside. Uncle! Instead of my uncle, I find Madame Mantis sitting behind his desk. As soon as she sees me, she stands up, walking over till she's close enough to put a hand on my shoulder. My first instinct is to try to compose myself and pretend that there's nothing wrong, so I force myself to smile. Madame Mantis, to what do I owe the pleasure? Ah, I heard they want to apply to the League. I came to make sure that Sphinx wasn't giving you too much trouble. I know he can be difficult. When you said that you'd give me a letter for college, I thought that maybe you also. I am, but only because it's so good for more options. Your uncle and I hardly agree on this. Anyway, he saw what happened at the museum on the news and decided to do some investigating on his own. He asked me to stay here, just in case. He should be back in a couple of hours. Hours? It just keeps getting worse. Your uncle's very worried about you. You're lucky he's already bald. Mantis pats me on the shoulder before moving her arm away. She then circles me a couple of times before walking all the way to the door and locking it. Now, what are you really here for? I just want to let him know that I was back already and that I'm safe. You can't hide things from me, dear. Very few people can. You come running in, and you look like you just saw a ghost. If you let me help, we can figure something out before he comes back. I take a deep breath while I consider my options. Last thing I want is more people knowing about what happened than it's necessary. But Mantis would gain nothing out of telling people I messed up. Besides, she gets along reasonably well with my uncle. There's a good chance that she really just means to help me. She's right. If I fix this before my uncle comes back, I could pretend it never happened. He doesn't have to find out at all. Things at the museum didn't exactly go as planned. To keep it short, I decided to bring back a hostage. But I want to bring back one of the speakers, Professor Schultz. But the place was too dark, and with all the confusion, we ended up capturing a Soviet agent that was there instead of him. Now he's down at the lab, and I don't know what to do. I'm not going to tell you how badly you messed up because I have a feeling that you're perfectly aware. First of all, take another breath.
You can't appear nervous when talking to a hostage. Does it look like he could have some kind of important information?
I guess. I mean, at the very least, he should know why the Soviets wanted the diamond. He said it's because it used to belong to them, but I'm not sure about that. The timing is very strange. They could have come for it at any other time. Do you think I could ask the KGB for a ransom, or hand him over to the League?
No, I doubt he's important enough for the KGB to pay for him, and he won't be of much use to the League if that's all he knows. Soviet agents operate on what's basically a need-to-know basis, and KGB's policy regarding captured agents is to always assume they have been compromised.
Great, he's useless then.
Not exactly. I know a couple of people that still do work inside Soviet territory from time to time. Any information about why an agent was at the museum would be of interest to them. They have some leverage in the League, and they are the type that don't like owing favors to others. If you make sure that no one finds out it was an accident, you could still make this look good for your application.
Get him to talk? Make all of this seem intentional? Yes, I do that. Thank you, Mantis. I'm about to turn around to leave when she moves in front of me and takes my hands into hers.
Don't forget, you're in charge.
She squeezed a little harder, enough to make my fingers hurt.
Besides, if it comes down to it, you can always kill him and dispose of the body.
I'm sure that won't be necessary, Mantis.
Of course not.
She laughs, letting me go before heading to unlock the door. I'm not sure if I go as far as to say I feel confident, but now I realize that I deal with far more intimidating people on a daily basis, and I do it pretty well. If I don't let them throw me around, some Soviet agent isn't going to be the one to ruin my plans. The first thing I notice when I enter the laboratory is that all the henchmen are gone, except for the one that helped me bring the Russian here in the first place. In their place, there are a couple of armed guards on each side of the table. They changed the opposite of easing tension in the room, and both guards look slightly uncomfortable as they acknowledge me with a nod. I wave my hand, and they both step aside and make room for me. I clear my throat to get the attention of the agent. He raises his head, and the look he gives me is enough to send a shiver down my spine, like he's considering all the ways he could kill me. This explains why the henchmen left and brought in the guards. I remember what Mantis said to me as I straighten my back, and I return the stare. It soon becomes a staring contest, neither of us wanting to be the first one to look away. Finally, it's me that gets unnerved, and I cough to dissimulate. I suppose it isn't hard for you to get out of your country, after all, being an agent and everything. But since you're here already, let's see what use we can find for you, shall we? Here's the deal. I need information, and you have it. If you answer my questions, I promise I'll let you go.
I won't talk.
Don't be stubborn. I'll have it, one way or another. But you do gotta say about how difficult this will be for you. This time he doesn't even bother answering. Even just think about it makes my stomach. Suit yourself, but I know what the KGB does to the people that fail them. And even if you don't talk, just by letting yourself be captured, you've already failed.
You know nothing.
Don't I? Think about it. This is the perfect chance to start over, a new beginning away from everything. No one will know what happened to you, except for me, and frankly, I couldn't care less. You just need to answer some questions, and you'll be free. There's no need to die for your country. He hesitates for a moment before shaking his head.
There always is.
Don't you have any family? Anyone you care about? You could help them this way too. Send them things. Get them out of the Soviet Union.
I have a sister. She was sent away for chess tournament and she never returned. Always wondered.
Not surprised by the sudden confession, since that was exactly what I had hoped for. By how he sounds when he says it. He even looks vulnerable for a second.
Well, it doesn't matter.
She was good as dead the moment she left. I realized right then that perhaps I didn't think this as thoroughly as he should have, because I suddenly feel less like pressing him for information. He was set on not saying a word when I was only talking about his job. But as soon as his family came up, his attitude changed completely. If there's something I could sympathize with, it's losing family. Find out what happened to her for you. Then you can decide whether you like to speak after all.
And I'm just supposed to believe you.
No, of course not. But if you live, you could go see for yourself whether it's the truth. You'll get water and something to eat. I'll give them orders not to mistreat you, but they'll make sure you don't escape, so don't try anything stupid. He tries to dissimulate, but I could tell from the look on his face that the henchman is really wishing for Sergei to give him an excuse to hurt him. On my way out, I glare at him to make sure he doesn't get any funny ideas. I curse my moment of weakness all the way to the office. I'm supposed to do one thing, get him to talk. Some I end up promising something I'm not even sure I can do. Well, let's try to see what happens if we threaten him. I'd rather not have to resort to other measures. It's messy, and people will say anything to get out of it.
You're not the first person to threaten me with torture, and you won't be the last. Go ahead, do it.
No, you see, I meant it when I said that I really dislike mess. Not to mention, torture as a whole makes me queasy. I approach the desk next to the table, and I open the drawer with the chemicals in it. After taking out a bottle and a syringe out of it, I give Sergei a brief look, making a quick mental calculation before deciding to fill the pump all the way. You recognize this, don't you? The look on his face tells me everything I need to know. I'm not an expert, but truth serum doesn't require much medical knowledge. Beyond being careful that the dose doesn't accidentally knock out the person it's administered to, it's a pretty simple procedure. But just about to inject him, Sergei spits right on my face, making me drop the syringe in surprise. The fall snaps the needle from its place and the liquid ends up all over the floor. Fortunately for me, the syringe doesn't break. I wipe my face with the end of my sleeve. If you keep it up, I'll puncture a vein. And after you broke one of my men's noses, I doubt the medical will want to come close to you. If I were you, I'd stay still. I put the needle back into the syringe and fill it once again. I don't bother disinfecting it or trying to be gentle. Before he could do anything, I simply jam the needle into his forearm. It lets out a groan of pain and doesn't stop struggling until I take it out, now empty. Oh, sorry, did that hurt? Let's start with your name. He bites his lip, very obviously trying to fight back the effect of the serum. After a whole minute, his mouth starts to quiver. He bites down so hard that he begins to bleed from the wound. I'm actually rather impressed. People usually don't last this long. Finally, it's too much for either his mind or his body, and he gives in. He opened his mouth, panting heavily from the effort.
Sergei.
See how easy it was? Now what were you doing at the museum?
I was sent there to retrieve the diamond.
I could tell as much. I want to know what the Soviets need it for. Lets out a groan as he struggles against his restraints.
I don't have that information. As far as I'm aware, it's national treasure that was stolen from Russia at some point, and Secretary wants it back. It belongs in. It being in Western hands reflects poorly on us.
Were you sent alone? Or more people assigned to it?
Someone would meet me to pick up diamond, but I don't know their name. I was only given code word to help identify them.
Either he really doesn't know much after all, or he has enough willpower left to stop himself from telling me everything. Either way, this isn't getting me anywhere. I need things that might be useful to Mantis's contacts. Let's see if he knows nothing. His whole thing would be pointless. So I'm going to assume that he does, but he's still too concentrated for the drug to take effect as it should. Maybe if I get him to talk about other things, he'll lose some focus and let something slip. Let's go back to you then, Agent. As an agent, you've traveled, you've met all kinds of people. More importantly, you've had plenty of opportunities to defect if you felt like it. Why stay? Are you really that committed to communism, to the Soviet government? His eyes widen in surprise. He probably wasn't expecting me to ask him about himself. He bites his lip even harder. Jackpot. Or could it be that you've some incentive? Money, perhaps?
Not money, my family.
That wasn't what I was expecting him to say. Facts takes me a moment to realize what I had heard right. What do you mean?
My mother used to be KGB too. If she ever found out that my sister defected, it would break her heart. This way she could be proud of at least one of her children.
I raised my hand to interrupt him. I do understand what it's like wanting to do something for your family's sake. Worse yet, it's a feeling I could sympathize with. And it hits me a little too close to home.
I just woke up.
Hi, how are you?
Yo, what's up, Hotbox? And I feel like going back to sleep. We're here. We're just reading this novel right now. Oh yeah, Hotbox, check out all these brand new emotes that we got in the chat. Look at those! Look at those emotes! Look at them! Look at all of them. They're active now. They work. Honestly, like, I'm doing like so much reading for a free game. But like, I feel like once I get to the end of chapter 1 right here, I might just switch games. Because I don't like got anybody, I don't got like an audience, I don't even got like the publisher themselves here. And this game is not even a category on Twitch.
Jabungo sushi.
Look at those sushis. Look at those bungo sushis. Hold on, let me go ahead and give you a... Hold on. Yeah, it seems like a lot more people are streaming nowadays that like that you and I only have like only certain people watching you. So I'm used to it. I am the used to it. And it hits
Cowabunga.
a little too close to home. Enough. If all you've left here are sob stories about your family, I'm done here. I turn around and hand the syringe to the henchman. He looks a little bit too content, so I pull it away at the last second before actually giving it to him. Remember, dead people don't talk. Don't get too creative. He nods, and as I walk away, I hear him start to take out the rest of the contents of the cabinet. That night, I can't sleep. Partly because my room is relatively close to the laboratory, so I get to hear the henchman trying to shout Sergei into compliance. Perhaps I would even find it a little amusing if he wasn't also failing miserably at it. The main reason for my lack of sleep, I simply can't stop thinking about what Sergei said. I can't even tell myself that he was lying for sympathy. Because I know for a fact that he wasn't. I made sure. After about an hour staring at my ceiling in the dark, I groan and get up from bed. On my way to the office, I run into the henchman. He looks both tired and frustrated, which is frankly no surprise. He more or less composes himself when he notices me, offering me a half-hearted salute. I wave one hand dismissingly in return.
There isn't much to report, boss.
So I could hear.
I'll be going back after I get some things from the warehouse.
Listen, before you do that, I want you to knock and let me know if there's someone at the office. I need some privacy to work, and Madame Mantis has been wandering around the base lately. The henchman hesitates, but it seems like he's not in the mood to argue. He approaches the door and knocks.
Ma'am?
When there's no answer, he opens the door and takes a look inside, then comes back out and makes a gesture to me to let me know that the office is empty.
Is this Hitman 3?
I don't know, man. This game was available on Steam July 2017. They officially launched for Steam for consoles today, so I got my copy on my Nintendo Switch. Okay. He holds the door open for me, and I walk inside. After I take a seat and turn on the computer, the henchman closes the door behind him and stand next to it. If Sergei's sister was good enough to be sent out to an international competition, she might show up in some kind of record. Let's see if I could find one.
My hat.
I spend about an hour going through the different files. I simply can't find one that isn't classified so much that someone noticed if I checked, or that doesn't require me to mess with my uncle's computer more than necessary. By the end, my curiosity is almost eating me alive. I know of world leaders with less secure files. Just who is this guy with everything related to him is so secretive? This would be much easier if I could just call the League. Of course, if I could call the League, I wouldn't be here in the first place.
It's about the Russian, isn't it? In a personal way.
Be careful with what you're about to say. I look very frustrated because the henchman looks like it's worth speaking up.
I think it might be getting too involved. Just make something up. He won't notice.
A thing you don't get paid to think, then. I don't even turn to look at him while I answer. Instead, I focus on the computer as I continue typing. The silence grows uncomfortable, and as I feel him staring at me, I let out a sigh. It's not about getting him to talk. Mantis said capture agents are considered compromised. There's a good chance that he'll end up dead rather sooner than later. If I was in the same situation, I wouldn't want to die without knowing that my family was safe. What I mean to say is, I feel sorry for him. Finally, I found a file that looks promising enough. It's a list of notable people that defected, compiled for the purpose of letting supervillains know of people that might be willing or desperate enough to work for them. Because the list has hundreds of names, the relation to him and his sister must have slipped through the cracks. You listen to the stream with your eyes closed. It's basically an audiobook. I know, right? This is basically an audiobook, like, with still imagery and not Danganronpa or Ace Attorney. I mean, Telltale games are basically audiobooks, but you can watch them. A lot of these people are that become skilled enough at something to be sent overseas, then simply never returned. And at least officially, most of them died shortly after. I keep scrolling until I find someone that matches Sergei's description. A female chess player that disappeared from the scene after an important match. Ah, she moved to America under a new identity. That makes sense. From the looks of it, she retired from chess and has been living a quiet life since then. In the end, I don't find much information beyond that. At least it's better than nothing. I've got what I needed. I'll be down in a minute. Go tell the guards to ready the vehicle and to deliver Sergei to the garage when it's done. I want him tied up and blindfolded. We'll drop him at the nearest city. The henchman takes too long to answer, and since I know that's a sign that he's about to protest in some way, I continue talking. The sooner he's out of here, the sooner this is over with. Maybe it'll even look like we know what we're doing if there isn't an angry Russian in the middle of the laboratory by tomorrow morning. He still doesn't look too convinced, but as long as he follows my direct instructions, it doesn't really matter either way. As soon as he leaves, I open one of the drawers and take out a pen and a piece of paper to write everything down. When I get back to the lab, I expect to see the henchman escorting Sergei outside, maybe with the help of a couple of guards. Hey, Hotbox, were you lurking or anything when I finished Resident Evil 3 on Sunday? Because we got like a couple of raids, and we beat the game. We actually beat the game. Instead, I find just the two of them. Standing in the middle of the room. You know, honestly, like, as usual, the final battle was really a letdown. It's just like, pick up the legit finger weapon. Boom. Shoot it once. Oh no, I need to charge it to 100%. Oh, shoot the pimples on the boss. Boom, the boss is down. Power up the finger again. Boom, you're dead. Like I get that they're trying to, like, you know, exaggerate that you need like a thick weapon to take down a thick boss now, but like, why does the final battle have to be disappointing? Like, dude. And when Big Boy Nemesis became like a thick liquor doggy, like when he transformed, he legit looks like a liquor on steroids. And I guess because they missed opportunities. They missed parts where you could put more puzzles. They missed the part where you could put a giant thick centipede. They missed a part where you can make puzzles in a clock tower. I honestly, like, my Resident Evil 2 was like what? Like an 8.5 for me. Resident Evil 3 was like a 7 out of 10. Instead, I find just the two of them standing in the middle of the room. Sergei has a red cloth covering his mouth, and his hands are handcuffed behind his back. The henchman is struggling to push him towards one of the back doors, but they aren't heading towards an exit. That door in particular leads to the aquarium, where my uncle keeps his sharks and other dangerous aquatic life forms when they are not in use. What are you doing? I told you. No problem, Hotbox. Thank you for the lurk. I told you to get him out of here. The henchman turns around, and for a moment he has a look of annoyance on his face, but quickly changes to something more apologetic as he realizes who he's talking to.
Boss, I thought...
I don't care what you thought. I have to do everything myself. Move aside. I'm escorting him on my own. He doesn't move, so I ended up pushing him out of the way and grabbing the back of Sergei's coat. Given how much taller he is, I have to stretch my arm upwards to get a proper grip. If I wasn't so angry, I'd feel rather ridiculous. Instead of staying out of the way, the henchman moves ahead of us and pushes the button that locks the door. What do you think you're doing?
Something I tried very hard to avoid. You just couldn't kill him, could you? You had to go and make everything more difficult. Now I'll have to kill you both. Put your hands on your head and stand next to Sergei.
I stand still for a moment, trying to make sense of the situation. Before I can say or do anything, I see him put a hand inside his shirt and take out a gun. He's pointing it at us, his finger resting on the trigger. I let Sergei go and take a step back. Suddenly he breaks his handcuffs and with his hands now free, rips the cloth covering his mouth. The henchman hesitates, and that second is all Sergei needs to grab him into a chokehold. Pulling him away from the door while trying to get him to drop the gun. The stream avatars are blocking the dialogue.
Quick, open the door.
I get to the keypad, but nothing I do unlocks this door. I can't activate the alarm either, as the only thing I get when I try is an error message. He overrode my codes. Sergei isn't any more successful, and the henchman elbows him so hard that he knocks him backwards. He has to take a moment to catch his breath. Since I can't do anything about the door, I begin going through the drawers, desperately trying to find something useful. All I manage to find is the small handgun, so we'll have to do... Unfortunately, I'm not a good shot, and what kind of gunshot is that? Between my nerves and lack of practice, I don't even come close to hitting the henchman when I fire. It's enough to startle him, however, and Sergei used the opportunity to run towards me. He pushes the table on his side, and we both duck behind it, using it as cover. Almost immediately, he snatches the gun away from my hand. Hey,
the one who can actually shoot a target at point-blank range gets the gun. Specifically because we only have 5 bullets left. Don't move.
He leans to the side slightly, just enough to get his hand and part of his head from behind the table.
I can't see him anymore.
You two know each other, don't you? He looks at me for about a second before he turns around and goes back to keeping an eye on the laboratory. I'm pretty sure he's not going to answer me, but then he sighs.
His name is Yakov. We used to work together before he defected. I had heard the rumors, but I didn't think he'd actually become a mercenary. It's a shame for more than just a KGB. It's a shame for the old Soviet Union. I didn't recognize him at first, but when he spoke to me, I realized it was him.
A mercenary? That's impossible. He's been here for months. I conducted all the interviews around the time he was hired myself. I'd have noticed if there's anything suspicious. Sergei gives me a skeptic look. Admittedly, being shot by someone I hired is not the ideal situation to argue about my ability to judge people.
He said his original contract was for someone called Sphinx.
He hesitates a little before saying the name, as if he's trying to recall exactly where he had heard it before. Uncle. I don't find out whether he remembers because it's me who messes up. I bite my tongue, but it's too late. In the heat of the moment, I let it slip that we're related.
He came here for your uncle.
You really want to talk about that right now?
Yes.
He's interrupted by the sound of an alarm as the white light of the laboratory lamps is replaced by an intermittent red flash.
What's that?
That's why he didn't shoot at us when we ran to hide. It's the evacuation alarm.
It could be activated from any room. Is it just for evacuation?
By anyone with the code, yes. It wouldn't be much of an alarm otherwise, would it? And more importantly, once activated, it purges everything inside the base. It's basically a self-destruct sequence.
How long do we have?
About 20 minutes, give or take. It depends on how much data the computer has to erase beforehand. I think he overrode my code. My uncle's can't be, because it's also the master password. There's nothing I can do about the alarm, but I can use another code to open the door. Then we can get out.
Good, stand up then.
What?
If he doesn't shoot, he's gone. If he shoots, I can see where he's doing it from and shoot back.
Except he has to shoot me for that. Sergei glares at me, and I get the impression that if I don't stand up on my own... Oh my god, my nose. He's just going to throw me a sign anyway, so I do it. Mere moments later, a bullet grazes my arm from behind one of my uncle's machines. Sergei notices it too and quickly shoots twice in succession. The first one hits the henchman in the arm, making him drop his gun, and the second goes right through his leg, making him fall down. Sergei runs toward him and kicks the gun as far as he can, then uses his free hand to forcibly drag the henchman from behind the machine. I take a second to check my arm. It hurts like hell, but it's not too bad. Nothing that will cause permanent damage, at least. Deciding that it's safe as long as it's go- Oh my god. Deciding that it's safe as it's going to get, I go to the keypad and begin to work on unlocking the door. Just like I thought, the henchman had no way on disabling my uncle's code, so it's a matter of trying them all until I find one that works and the door opens. Let's get out of here.
What do you want to do with him?
I take a look at the henchman who's pressing his hand against his wound to slow down the bleeding. If it weren't for me, I'd just leave him here, but something tells me that Uncle is going to want to have a word or two with him once he finds out about all of this. Right, I suppose we should take him with us. You're lucky it wasn't Sphinx who had to go through this.
Who says he wasn't? You haven't seen him since you arrived, have you?
Mantis did.
Are you sure?
Make a pause while I think. You should know. She said that he had gone to take care of some business before I arrived. Not that she had seen him.
We both know that the hangar is all the key to the other side of the base. You won't make it in time if you decide to take me with you. Since, thanks to Sergei, I can't walk on my own. We can either go looking for him, or you can make sure that we all get out of here together. But you can't do both.
I could leave you with Sergei. He looks just about as upset as I feel.
Sure, leave the two Soviets together. What could go wrong?
Damn. And the possibility of my uncle needing me is more important than this idiot. There's no need to think about it twice. Just leave him. You come with me. We'll talk about what will happen later. Sergei seems to hesitate for a moment, but in the end he hits the henchman with the butt of the gun, knocking him out before following me outside. Okay. He just knocked down at least. Outside the laboratory, the base is in total chaos. The henchmen are running back and forth. Some of them carry stacks of paper with them while others are trying to move pieces of equipment. They ignore me as I try to get their attention, until I physically stop one of the technicians by putting my hand on his chest. When and where was the last time you saw my uncle?
At his office, sir. 2 minutes ago. He was with Mantis.
We get to the office. The first thing I see is Mantis leaning over the computer, typing desperately while my uncle goes through the drawers at the same time. I can't help letting out a sigh of relief, just loud enough to get their attention. Mantis looks up for a second before going back to work, but my uncle stops whatever he's doing and runs to meet me. At first, I think he's going to hug me, and he puts his hands on my shoulder and begins to angrily shake me back and forth.
Of all the irresponsible things you've done, this is by far the worst. How did you even manage to activate the alarm?
I didn't.
And who did? Because as far as I know, nobody else would dare touch it.
My uncle stops shaking me, then takes a step back. It looks like he's finally about to lose his patience and hit me. Before he could do it, Mantis claps her hands together to get our attention. When we turn around, I see that she's waving a diskette in her hand.
Boys, please, you can fight all you want when we aren't about to blow up. It's ready, Sphinx.
He nods, picking up a paper from the desk before turning around and leaving. He makes sure to glare at me one last time, though. As we head out, Mantis grabs me by the arm, pulling me closer so that we're walking side to side. It takes conscience to be able to keep up with her since she is taller, but the position at least means that she can lean down and whisper in my ear. Sergei, who has been standing by the door, waits a moment before beginning to walk and then remains at a cautious distance of a couple steps behind us.
That's the Russian, isn't it? If you told me that you looked like that, I'd have suggested that you keep him.
Mantis, it's not like that.
Are you sure? Because if you don't want him, I might as well just keep him for myself.
She laughs like we weren't all still in mortal danger, changing her hands away from my arm to around my shoulder. It takes us about a month to get the lair back into something resembling a working shape, and I'm not entirely sure we succeeded. The mercenary damaged a lot of sensitive equipment with the stunt he pulled, and though buying replacements is easy enough, it still takes a lot of hands to set it up. I don't have the nerve to tell my uncle that I'm planning to move out once I sell the diamond, which Sergei conveniently still had, and which he agreed to hand to me in exchange of employment. My uncle has been pretty understanding, all things considered, so I don't want to push my luck by upsetting him. I finish filling the box with the parts that need to be thrown away, and I pick it up. Sergei was supposed to be here hours ago. Sergei, come over here. We need to finish moving these. There's no answer. I don't keep an eye on him constantly based on the fact that he's more competent than half the henchmen put together. That doesn't mean I can have him running around unsupervised. Sergei? I put down the box and head outside. My uncle's standing at the other end of the wall, ordering a henchman on a ladder while he installs and tests the new security cameras. I wave at him to get his attention. Uncle, have you seen the Russian? He says something to the henchman before walking over to me.
Not since yesterday. I thought he was busy with you. Have you checked the laboratory?
No, but he doesn't have any reason to be there. The laboratory was the first thing we took care of, remember?
That doesn't mean we won't be there. Mistakes begin with oversights.
Let's go. I was headed there anyway. We both headed to the laboratory, but when we got there, Sergei's nowhere to be found. In fact, none of the people supposed to be here are. Yet the only thing that seems out of place is the severed arm on top of the table.
Holy sh!
There's an arm on the table! My uncle pushes me back immediately, stepping in front of me as he takes a quick look around to make sure that we're actually alone. The room is completely silent, except for the sound of the clock ticking.
Wait here. If anything happens, go call Mantis.
He takes out a pen from his closet and approaches the table, carefully but surely. Once he's close enough, he begins to prod the arm with the blunt end of the pen, first moving it slightly to the side and then turning it over completely. The arm makes a metallic, rather displeasing sound, and a thick blue liquid begins to leak from the inside and onto the table. Whatever it is, there's a good amount of it, and doesn't stop until there's a puddle under the arm. And by then, some has gotten on the floor, too. My uncle puts down the pen before cleaning his hands with the end of his shirt.
You could come closer now. The arm is a prosthesis, and this is just tinted hydraulic fluid.
I go stand next to him and see what he means almost right away. While on the outside looks like any other arm, rather than exposed flesh and bone, the severed end has metal parts and cables of varying lengths sticking out of it. And just like that, the arm goes from horrifying to fascinating. What's that? Under all the mess, I notice a piece of paper slightly sticking out from under the arm. I pick up the pen that my uncle was using and finish getting the arm out of the way. The paper is stained and threatens to tear down if I so much as touch it, but the writing is legible enough for me to be able to read it with some effort. When I begin, feel my knees go weak from the shock. I briefly consider getting rid of it, but since I drew my uncle's attention to its presence, it's already too late. The paper is a note from Sergei.
Apologies for leaving so abruptly. Blah blah blah. I'm not returning to the Soviet Union. Blah blah blah. Rest assured I won't say anything. Blah blah blah.
That son of a bitch. This is his arm! Sergei somehow having a fake arm and having ripped it off, it barely seems to register in my brain. I'm more preoccupied with the fact that since I was the one who convinced my uncle to let Sergei stay here, This is yet another one of my mistakes. I don't even need to look at him to be able to tell that he's frowning. I take a step back while I try to think of something to say to calm him down. Wait, let's take another look at the arm. Even if he left it behind because there's something wrong with it, it's still an impressive piece of equipment. When was the last time you saw such an intricate prosthesis? Imagine all the things that we could do with it. Just the arm itself is proof that the Soviets have been working on it as well. That seems to do it. My uncle raises an eyebrow as he considers what I just said, and while he still looks rather upset, now he looks more intrigued.
I'll get something to clean this up while I prepare the laboratory.
He doesn't need to tell me twice. As soon as he's finished speaking, I turn around and leave. It's a shame that things with Sergei didn't work out as intended, but I can't help but be a little impressed by a man who is willing to rip his own arm and leave it behind. Who knows? Maybe we'll meet again sometime. That's it? That's the story with Sergei? Question mark?
Nani?
It only took almost 1 to 2 hours for me to finish. Okay, so well, here's the thing. This is a budget visual novel. Okay, so this is my first impression. So it's a budget visual novel. I understand that. The music, I would say, is simple enough. Is simple enough. It gives you the spy vibe that's intended. Our main character is meant to be a supervillain. You get that vibe from him. While this is just a rough English translation of what I believe it to be original Spanish story translated into English, I still say it's pretty fine. But it's a very short game. It's a wonder that this is $3 on Steam when it was released in July 2017. That's not so bad. It's an interesting story. Do we have a gallery actually? Oh, we have stuff in the gallery. I gotta say the artwork is actually pretty good. This is some the shadows and the coloring that they've used for the different articles of clothing and for the characters. The characters are the most detailed things in the entire game. But if you're looking to get a quick fix of a visual novel, then again, this is just a quick fix visual novel. It's not like an immersive story like Life is Strange or the Telltale games where you're going to get chapter and chapter by chapter. This is just a quick fix. So I wouldn't say it's the worst visual novel. It's pretty interesting enough, and it's written to be a parody, so it's not a story that's meant to be taken too seriously too. Overall, I'd probably give it a good 7 out of 10 for now. I think it's hit the mark I think it's hit the mark of reading pretty well and stuff. I might reopen this game, explore the other path with the American agent, or if we want to steal the diamond. But for now, I'm gonna go into intermission and switch over to another game, and I will be right back.